Howdy everybody, David here, and this is another Fantasy Age tutorial on character creation. In this tutorial we're going to take a look at one of the three core classes in Fantasy Age, the Rogue. Now, there are 9 steps to creating a character in Fantasy Age, and in this tutorial we will go over every single step, and we'll go into grave detail about what ability focuses are, what talents are, what your base class features are. So if you're a new player, or if you're actually a new player to tabletop games in general, this will be a great tutorial for you to check out. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, as I said, there are 9 steps in making a character in Fantasy Age. And step 1 is a very important step. It's create the concept for your character. Now, what you do when you think of a concept for your character, you're trying to think of a roundabout or rough idea of what sort of character you want to play. This is going to take into consideration your race, your class. It's going to take, once you get familiar with the rules a little bit more, ability focuses, talents, specializations that you're going to get down the line. So for this rogue, I want this to be sort of like a very lower class rogue, one that was probably captured in slavery on a ship in a very small seaside village early in life and basically became a sailor. This rogue is going to be a halfling. You never go wrong being a halfling, right? And this halfling is very good with his hands, meaning whatever is yours is his. He's going to be good with pickpockets, he's going to be good with the bow, and he's also going to be good with the short sword and eventually a shield. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So now that we've got step 1 out of the way, we've created the character concept for this rogue. I'm really excited about making him. So now step 2 is determining your ability scores. Now in Fantasy Age there are 2 different ways to generate these ability scores. The first way is the more traditional way. You would roll 3d6, and as you can see here, there are 9 ability scores. Accuracy, which deals with ranged weaponry, communication, persuasions, all kinds of speaking, linguistics, all of that good stuff. Constitution deals with other things, stamina, your hit points. Dexterity has to do with movement, also with armor class. Fighting deals with more strength-based melee weapons. Intelligence, I just noticed that on this character sheet it's called intelligence. So intelligence, basically how smart your character is, how knowledgeable the character is with all kinds of different, maybe religious lores, history lores. We'll go on to perception. This is your senses. This is very important for a rogue. Strength, just like it says how strong you are, and willpower is more of a more like a mage type of stat, along with intelligence. So the rogue, like every other of the, like each of the 3 core classes, have 4 primary abilities. And the 4 primary ability scores are going to be accuracy for your ranged weaponry, or also accuracy can go along with also brawling, staves, and short blades. Communication is going to be a primary attribute. Dexterity, this goes with your armor class, with your speed, and also perception, which is your senses. Now that we've got sort of like a background on what the stats are, what ability stats are going to be important for you playing a rogue, now we have to generate our stats. And like I had just mentioned, you can do this pretty much one of 2 ways. The first way, you can roll 3d6 9 times and place the stats anywhere you want to. So a lot of games, most games will probably go that route. And there is also a secondary option, which is the option that I am going to use to save time in this tutorial. And this is where you get 10 points to spend, and all of your ability scores will start at 0. So there's a couple small rules to this. First off, you cannot take anything from a 0 to a lower score, to a negative number, to gain more points to spend. So you cannot do that. You cannot put more than 3 points in the one ability score also. Now, there is an error that I want everyone to be aware of in the printed book for Fantasy Age. In the printed book, under option 2, it does state that you get 12 points to spend. Unfortunately, that is wrong. In the PDF, it says you get 10 points to spend. Well, I tweeted Green Ronin, and actually Chris Pramus answered the tweet, which is the designer of the game, and said that the PDF is right, so you do start with 10 points. So we will go ahead and spend our 10 points, and it's unfortunate that there's already an error in the printed version of the book. But that's what happens, I guess, whenever you kind of rush something out. So, alright, so let's go ahead and think about what we want to do for our character. We have 10 points. I know that I'm going to be using accuracy-based weapons. I'm going to be using light blades and bows. So I want my accuracy to be 3. That's for sure. Communication, even though it's a primary ability, I'm going to leave it at a 0. Constitution, I'm going to kind of leave there. I'm going to leave it blank for now. Now, dexterity, this has to do with a lot of important things like your thieves' tools, a lot of your pickpocketing and stuff like that. So for dexterity, I definitely want to have at least a 2. Fighting, I'm not worried about because I'm not using the strength-based weapons. Intelligence, I'm not worried about. Perception, I'm going to leave blank. Now for strength, I want to have a 1. Even though strength is not a primary ability for me, I'm going to be using a longbow. And a longbow has a minimum strength of 1 to be able to use the bow. So I'm going to put a 1 into my strength. And then for willpower, I'm going to leave blank. So this gives me a total of 3, 4, 5, 6 points spent. So I have 4 more points to spend. Now, I can go ahead and put maybe another point into dexterity, which I think would be good. That gives me 6 points. Constitution, even though it is not a primary ability, I can get extra hit points a level, which is really good. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then for perception, which is like looking for traps, looking for those tripwires, trying to hear behind the closed door, let's go ahead and give ourselves a 2. So as you can see, we've got our 10 points now. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're ready to rock and roll. Awesome. So number 2 is done. Let's move on to number 3. We're going to choose our race. Now, like I've already said, we are going to go ahead and go with a halfling. Who doesn't want a halfling in their party, even if they don't have hairy feet, right? So there's really no place to put race, on your character sheet. So we're going to keep that in your social class for now, and I'm sure maybe down the line they'll probably add something for race. So the halfling, much like, and when you choose a race in Fantasy Age, there are 6 core races. There are 6 being the orc, the human, the dwarf, the gnome, the halfling, and the elf. So those are the 6 core races that you can be for Fantasy Age. And if you play a special setting like Titan's Grave, then you could go ahead and play a Saurian, which is much like a lizard man type of race, or a serpent type of race. But seeing that we're just doing something core, we're going to go ahead with the halfling. Now, just like a lot of other games, most other games, when you choose a race, you're going to get bonuses for your race. And Fantasy Age is no different. And what I really like about Fantasy Age is you get some miscellaneous quirks as well to get, well, not quirks, but miscellaneous things that go along with your race as well. So when you're looking in the races section, around page 12 for the halfling, you're going to notice that you're automatically going to get dexterity bonus. So our dexterity bonus is now going to go from a 3 to a 4 because we get a +1 for halfling. Now we're going to get to choose an ability focus. Now let me explain a little bit about what an ability focus is in Fantasy Age. And a lot of people actually get confused between your base ability and your ability focuses. They're attached. Your ability is your base. So, for instance, as a halfling, I get to choose between one of the 2 ability focuses. And the ability focuses are equivalent to like proficiency bonuses or skill bonuses or rank bonuses in other games that we're used to playing like D&D or Pathfinder. So it's basically a modification to a particular type of skill within that primary ability. So for instance, as a halfling, I get to choose between communication bargaining. So if I do any kind of communication test that require bargaining, I could get a bonus, or dexterity stealth. This is pretty much a no-brainer as a halfling, and especially being a rogue, being stealthy, being really a professional thief for the most part, I am going to go ahead and go with dexterity stealth. Now, what you're going to want to do is see these boxes under the primary ability. I'm going to put stealth. Now, what that means is I get a +2 bonus on top of my dexterity check. So in Fantasy Age, all of the rolls, well, most of the rolls are a 3d6. Now, when you do a particular type of skill check, as in like I'm trying to stealth, I'm going to go ahead and do a 3d6 plus my dexterity bonus, and seeing that I have stealth as an ability focus, which is a smaller focused area of dexterity, that stealth is going to give me an additional 2. So not only am I going to get the 4, I'm going to get the 2 for a 3d6 plus 6 bonus. Really nice. Now, as you upgrade your character, you get more ability focuses. You can actually take stealth up higher up for ability scores. We're not going to talk about that. That's going to be a separate tutorial. This is just basically creating the character, but I'm just letting you know you can take your focuses up to give you a better bonus than just 2. Now, we've chosen our ability focus for our race. Now we're going to calculate our speed, because the speed of the halfling is an 8 plus my dexterity. So my dexterity is 4, so my speed is a base of an 8 for a total of 12. Pretty good for a halfling. Now, there are some other things that's going to take into consideration your speed, and that is your armor. But we'll take care of that later when it comes to the equipment portion. So armor can modify your speed. It can kind of slow you down a little bit depending on how heavy your armor is. So, but the rogue starts with light leather armor, so it's really not going to bother me because of another class feature that I'm going to get also at level 1. So, but if you're not a rogue, then you're going to have to worry about it. So now, as a halfling, we can speak and read halfling and the common tongue. So, under racial languages, racial features, let's go with languages, and we can speak and read halfling and the common tongue. Very good. Next, this is what's really unique about playing the different races in Fantasy Age. There is a table that is a 2d6 table, and it has about 6 to 8 different things that you can roll. Now, some of these can be primary ability score increases. Some of these bonuses can be an ability focus, or some can maybe be like an extra weapon group or something. The halfling is no different. All 6 races get these tables, and you get to roll twice. And I've got my 2d6 here, and I'm going to roll twice to see what we get on the halfling benefits. So we get to roll twice, and it's totally random. So I rolled a 7, and 7 to 8 is going to give me +1 to communication. Very nice. primary attribute. I like it, primary ability. So we gained a 1. We're going to roll it again, and if you get doubles, you can't get the same thing. So if we get another 7 or 8, then we're going to have to re-roll because we can't get it twice. So I have an 8, I'm going to re-roll. So I rolled a 10 this time. So this means that I'm going to get the focus, strength, climbing. So we're going to come down here to strength, and we're going to put climbing in here. Now, so basically what this focus is, to kind of reiterate what we've already talked about, anytime I do a strength check, maybe mountain climbing, climbing a rope, climbing, maybe scaling up the side of a building using the pipe, anytime that I do that strength check, then seeing that I'm going to be doing climbing and I have a special ability focus in climbing, then I'll get to add an additional +2. So my roll would be a base of 3d6 plus 1 for my strength plus 2 more for a total of 3d6 plus 3. Piece of cake. Piece of cake, simple. Ability focuses are a very robust way to really advance your character. There are probably over 100 different ability focuses for the 9 stats. I mean, there is just a crazy amount of customization that you can do with skills. Talents are the same way. We'll get into talents here in just a second. There's 24 talents. There's 12 fields of magic. You know, there are 4 different types of rogues as specializations that we can choose later on down the line. And if you don't know what a specialization is in Fantasy Age, it's basically like an archetype from D&D 5e, or maybe a Paragon Path from D&D 4th edition, or maybe an Elite or Destiny class from Pathfinder or 3.5. So it's just more ways to customize your rogue. And that's the one really good thing besides the stunt system. I love the stunt system in Fantasy Age, but character creation and character progression is by far the most awesome thing about this game. So now that we've finished choosing our race, we've got our 2 different halfling benefits, we are going to go to number 4. Number 4 is basically determining our social class and background. Now, like I was saying already, for the social class, I'm probably gonna go ahead and go with I'm going with an outsider background. So as an outsider, which I'm going to go ahead and type that in there now, you know, and to speak a little bit about the backgrounds, there are 4 different backgrounds in Fantasy Age. You can either roll those randomly on a table for a 1d6, or if you'd like to go ahead and choose it, if you get with your dungeon master, I'm sure he or she will probably allow you to do that. So if you want to choose, you'll have the choice between outsider, which is exactly what it sounds like. Then there's lower class, such as like artists and laborers, sailors and whatnot. Then there are the middle class, which are basically shopkeepers, innkeepers, scribes, students, and upper class, which are basically nobility, apprentices, officials, scholars, and then, you know, as we're going outsider, we are going to go with being a pirate. I am looking forward to going with, and in fact, I'm sorry, not pirate, I'm going criminal. So my social class is I am an outsider. Oops, I put it in the wrong spot. And my background is I am a criminal. Because remember, I was talking about being kidnapped and put on a pirate ship. So I could have either been a pirate or a criminal, but for this I'm going to go ahead and choose criminal. So I'm basically lower than the lower class. I'm like an outsider. So just like, you know, choosing a race, when you choose your background, you get more character customization. So whatever background you choose, you get to choose another ability focus. So as the criminal, I get to choose between communication deception, pretty nice. I do like communication deception, which is like lying to people, trying to cover up any kind of crimes maybe that you're trying to lie about. Or I could choose dexterity lockpicking. Aha. So seeing that my little halfling is good with his hands, like I had mentioned when we were brainstorming about a character concept, I'm going to go ahead and choose dexterity lockpicking. Very nice. Alright, so besides stealth, I will put lockpicking. Now this is going to give me, anytime I go to pick a lock, I'm going to get a 3d6 plus my 4 for dex and plus 2 more for lockpicking. So I'm going to be having a really good bonus at 3d6 plus 6 to pick any kind of lock. Really happy about that. So now I have my background. I've got my social status, and your social status also affects how much money that you start the game with. So, you know, it just depends. Of course, the upper class, they get the most amount of money, and the outsiders basically get the lowest amount of money, and I'm not really worried about it. So now we're done with step 4, determining social class and background. We're chugging along. Let's start with let's go to number 5. Number 5 is the fun one. You get to choose your class. Well, we already know that we're going rogue, so once you go rogue, you know. So starting on page 22 in both the PDF and the basic rule book, here's the rogue. There's a nice 2-page spread and has everything that you get from levels 1 to 20. Well, not everything. It doesn't go into everything. But we're gonna start here. We've already talked about our primary abilities being accuracy, communication, dex, and perception. We've already got those checked off here. That's what these little check boxes are for, to remind us what is primary and what is not primary or secondary. We've already discussed secondaries, and we're going to go do our health now. So for a rogue, our starting health will be a base of 25 plus our constitution of 1, so that would be 26, and we get to roll a d6 to start. So I'm not very good at rolling, so I'm gonna go ahead and roll, and I actually rolled a 3. Wow, usually last character I made I rolled 1s. So I rolled a 3. We get a 1 for our constitution, for a 4 plus 25 base, for a total of 29 first level hit points. Not too bad. That's pretty good for a rogue. Also, we get weapon groups that we are basically proficient in and skilled in, that we could use with no negative modifiers. And these are the brawling, light blades, staves, and you get to choose between black powder guns or bows. I was thinking about going black powder guns, but the reload time on black powder guns takes a major action. So basically, I would only be firing the gun every other round, and I didn't want that. So I decided to go with the longbow, because the longbow requires a minor action to shoot. So I can shoot with the major action, reload with a minor action, everything will be fine. Plus I'll be able to get rid of the minor action eventually, because I'm going to take an archery talent that I believe will eliminate that minor. So we get to choose some things. Well, we get some base things first at level 1. First, we are going to get a class feature called Pinpoint Attack. I should have probably wrote these down first, and I apologize about that. So what Pinpoint Attack does is, 1 time per round, you can add an additional 1d6 to the damage of a successful attack if your dexterity is greater than your opponent's. So I have a 4 dexterity. That's pretty darn high for a level 1 character. So basically, if I ask the game master, is my dex higher than the creature? So if the creature is a 2, then obviously my dex is higher because I have a 4. So with this Pinpoint Attack, it's going to allow me 1 time every round to get an additional 1d6 damage on that target, as long as it's a successful attack. So instead of if I was using my short sword, instead of doing the 1d6, I would do a 2d6 because of Pinpoint. Or the longbow, instead of doing 1d6, I would do 2d6. So as you can see, that is a very, very, very powerful first level class feature. But just remember, your dex has to be higher once per turn. Your dex, as long as your dex is higher than your target's dex, you can add an additional 1d6 to your damage on a successful attack. Alright, awesome. And I spelled success wrong. I think I put too many L's in there. Alright, so next after pinpoint attack, here's a good one. This is called Rogue's Armor. Now, Rogue's Armor is nice because this means that you're at home in leather armor. So what this means is I can ignore the armor penalty of leather armor altogether. And it does not affect neither my speed nor my dexterity. So leather armor, as long as I wear leather armor, I ignore all penalties for armor. I ignore all leather penalties. It's for speed and armor. Okay? So what that means is basically this. Light leather usually has a 1 penalty. So that is normally going to take my speed from a 12 back down to 11. Say if I was a fighter or if I was a mage. But seeing that I have this Rogue's Armor, it negates that. I have no penalty now. So I have 0 penalty, and my speed does not change, my defense does not change. Really nice. That is quite nice. And there's 2 different types of armor. There's a light armor and a heavy armor. So even if I upgrade to heavy armor, heavy leather armor, then I'm not going to endure any kind of penalty. But if I go above leather armor, so if I go into like the chain mails or the plate mails, which is possible, anybody can wear any type of armor in this game, which is a good thing, then that's when, you know, Rogue's Armor is not going to benefit me anymore. So as a rogue, I have to stay in leather armor to keep those, you know, to keep those negative modifiers off of my defense and speed. Alright, so the last thing that I get at level 1 are starting talents. And this is where you become a novice in one of the following talents. You can choose Scouting, Contacts, or Thievery. So if you don't know what a talent is in Fantasy Age, it is a way to customize your character. Meaning, it is sort of like a class feature. It's like, it's just another way to, you know, it's just another way that shows how robust the character creation is. Now, like I was saying, I get to choose between Thievery, Scouting, and Contacts. So Contacts is basically this. You know people sometimes in the most unlikeliest places. And there's 3 different levels to each talent. You start at Novice, and then if you take another and put another advancement, when you get a talent advancement, you can either buy a new talent or upgrade one of the talents you have. And you can upgrade to a Journeyman and Master. But Contacts is basically good for a rogue. It you know, it has to do with what kind of people you know in the most unlikeliest places. I can take Scouting, which Scouting is basically you are skilled at the art of reconnaissance. So I can find things really easily, track people down, or I can go ahead and take Thievery. And Thievery is basically what's yours is yours and what's theirs is yours too. So this is basically with, you know, lockpicking, traps, searching, whatnot. So I'm going with Thievery. Now, whenever you choose a talent, people, you need to really pay attention that there are some requirements that you meet before you get this talent. Meaning, you know, thievery has 2 requirements. You have to be a rogue. Obviously, I'm a rogue. And secondly, I have to have a dexterity of 2 or higher, which I meet that and fulfill that requirement. So I'm going to go ahead and go with thievery, even though I do like the other. I do like contacts, and I do like the reconnaissance also, scouting. But I really think that I want to go with thievery. I just think that thievery is going to be the way to go for this character for now. So as thievery, I am going to be a novice, and as a novice, you do not let locks stand in your way. If you fail a dexterity lockpicking test, you can re-roll it, but you must keep the results of the second roll. Holy cow, how awesome is that? Not only do I get 3d6 plus 6 for lockpicking checks because of my lockpicking ability focus and my high dex, but I also get to re-roll any failed test. Wow. Look out, locked houses. Here comes my halfling. I like this. So, as a novice, and then, you know, as you gain another level, you know, I would go to journeyman next, and as a journeyman you are familiar with many types of traps. If you fail a dexterity traps test, you can re-roll it, but you must keep the result of the second roll, and you also get to keep, you know, the lockpicking one from being a novice. And then when you go to master, this means that you know how to find what's hidden, and if you fail a perception searching check for any kind of trap or lock, then you get to re-roll it. I mean, thievery is perfect, is a perfect talent for a thief. And like I said, you know, you start with novice, but as you get a little bit higher in levels, now, like level 3 for the rogue, I'll get to go to journeyman at level 3, and then at level 5 I'll get to go to master. So by level 5 I'll be a master in thievery, because at level 3 and level 5 you can choose a whole new talent altogether, and you start at novice, and you still get to keep thievery novice, but you just won't get to expand, you know, thievery. But I really want to upgrade this, so I'm going to take thievery up to master as quickly as I can. But I'll probably go ahead and take another couple talents also. I'll probably take archery style. Probably will take archery style, and probably weapon and shield style also, to give me sort of like maximum offense for hand-to-hand and also ranged, and great thievery talents. So my party will love to have me around. So that's going to be later on. We'll talk about that in the next video. So other than that, we're pretty much done with the rogue. Well, for the class anyway. So we're done with number 5 now. Let's go to number 6, which is we get to pick our starting equipment. So every class in Fantasy Age, they get to start with a certain amount of gear. And here it is. It's right past the warrior on page number 27. And characters begin with the following. Every character gets to start with a backpack, a traveler's garb, and also a water skin. I've already got that written down. If you are a rogue, you get light leather armor and 2 weapons. I've got my light leather armor here. I didn't have to pay anything for it. And my 2 weapons. I took this short sword, and I took the long bow as my 2 free weapons. And if you choose a bow, you also get a quiver of 20 arrows or bolts. So I also added my 20 arrows here and the quiver down there. Now also for starting money, don't forget, your social class determines how much money you start with. And seeing that I am an outsider, I start with 15 plus 3d6 gold. So I've got my 3d6 here. I'm going to roll it, and I rolled a 5, 9, 12. So I start with 15 plus 12 to be 27 silver. Now, I've purchased one thing. I purchased lockpicks from the equipment because I wanted to have lockpicks for this character. Those cost 15 silver, so I'm going to deduct that back down to 12 silver. And now my equipment is pretty much done, and now I want to calculate my attacks with my 2 weapons. Now, how Fantasy Age works is there are weapon groups. Every class is proficient with certain weapon groups, and within every weapon group there are 3 weapons. Now take for instance, I am proficient with brawling, light blades, staves, and bows. Now the bows, for example, there are 3 bows. There is a crossbow, there is a short bow, and there is a long bow. I chose the longbow because I wanted the most damage, but it has a requirement of a 1 strength, and you know that's why I put the 1 in the strength, so I would meet the minimum. So when you do your attack roll, it is a 3d6 roll, just like the ability check rolls. So we're going to do 3d6 in here, plus accuracy, because all ranged weapons are dealing with the accuracy ability. All right, 3. So I'm going to be 3d6 plus 3 for my attack roll. Now you can get another bonus too. You can actually take accuracy weapon group bows, or accuracy bows. It's just like any other skill check. It's just like dexterity stealth. I get a bonus for stealth checks. I get a bonus for lockpicking. I get a bonus for climbing. If I chose accuracy bows, which every level you get to choose more and more things for your character, more and more ability scores, and we'll talk about that in the next video. But you can actually get accuracy bows, and that would add another +2. But I don't have that yet. But you better darn well believe that's going to be the first ability focus that I can buy when I'm allowed to buy a primary ability focus score. And ability focus, I'll be able to buy that. That's the first thing I do. That should be at level 2. So at level 1, I'm 3d6 plus 3 for my attack roll. I'm really happy about that. The base damage is a 1d6 plus 3, and for your damage you also add in the accuracy also, or whatever other primary score that you're using. So my damage is going to be a 1d6 plus 6. 1d6 plus 3 because that's how much the weapon does base, plus my 3 for accuracy, 1d6 plus 6. It has a short range of 26 yards, which translates to 13 squares on a virtual tabletop grid or a gamepad at the table. That's if you use battle grids. In Fantasy Age, every 1-inch square is equal to 2 yards. So it'll be 13 squares or 26 yards, or 26 squares or 52 yards for the long range, and the reload time is a minor action. So my sword, light blades, that is also based off of accuracy. I am so lucky because of that, because I do not have a high fighting skill. A lot of axes and hammers and maces, they go off of fighting, but I don't have that. I have accuracy based weapons, which is really nice. So for the short sword, the attack roll is going to be 3d6, and you can do the same thing with accuracy here. You can go accuracy light weapons, and bam, you'll get a +2 bonus to all the light weapons. Or if you just want to say short sword, or however your DM, or but I think it's pretty much the weapon group class. So you would go, you know, ability focus for light weapons. But seeing that all we're doing is using the accuracy, it'll be 3d6 plus 3. And the base damage of the short sword is a 1d6 plus 2. And then we'll add the 3 more on because of the, you know, probably should do that. So it'll be 1d6 plus 2 plus 3. And we'll probably do that down here. Oops. I'll just put 1d6 plus 3 base and then plus 3 more because of the stat, and then we'll go +0 for the focus. So every single number will know where we get these numbers from, instead of having one big number and then we have to recalculate it in our brains. So it'll be much easier to keep it like this. So we're pretty much done with our equipment basically. I've bought my lockpicks, deducted my 15 silver. I have 12 silver left. I am good to go. Now, step number 7 is calculating your defense. Now, defense in Fantasy Age is like armor class in every other game. And well, not every other game, but D&D, Pathfinder, the other D20 types of games, it's basically equivalent to your armor class. Now, when you calculate your defense, it is a base of 10 plus your dexterity plus any kind of shield bonus. I don't have enough money to buy a shield, which I would have loved to buy a shield to get an extra +1, but we're just going to go with the 10 plus dexterity. My dexterity is a 4, so that gives me a 14 defense. Pretty good for first level. Now, you can also, add the shield bonus on, so it would go to a 15. That's when I get enough money. But right now, I just don't have the money to do that. Now, armor rating is much like I want to call it is sort of like an absorption number. So the light leather armor, it has an absorption or armor rating of 3, or AR. Now, what the AR does, or armor rating, is this. Say I get hit successfully by Snaggletooth, the Orc Warlord. Alright? Say he hits me for 12 damage. Alright? My armor rating is going to soak 3 of that. So if I get hit for 12, my armor soaks 3, then I really only take 9 damage, and then that would leave me with 20 hit points out of 29. So armor rating is super easy. It's a great mechanic. It's something that's not in a lot of games, and I really enjoy this. I really enjoy that mechanic with Fantasy Age, because the numbers for defense are quite low, so you're always hitting. You always feel like you're doing something. You're always hitting the creature, and then the armor rating is how much that person takes. So it's a really good. I really like the combat system in Fantasy Age. I'm sure you can tell. So that's what armor rating is. Every armor has an armor rating, and it starts with a 3, and I believe the plate mail has a 10. So if you get hit for 12 damage in plate mail, you'd only take 2 damage. So the warriors are going to reign supreme in this game for taking hand-to-hand combat damage. Awesome. So now we've calculated our defense, and don't forget, we have Rogue's Armor, which is our level 1 Rogue class feature. So we don't have to worry about any armor penalties, because normally there's a 1 penalty for light armor. But seeing that we are in leather armor, our Rogue's Armor negates that penalty altogether for us. So that's really nice. And I'm going to get rid of this 20 over here too. That was just an example. So now we're done with number 7. Number 8, let's go ahead and pick a name. Let's see what some example names are in the back in the race section. I wanted to take you guys back there because, in case you didn't know, every race has a bunch of example names for their clans, for their family names, males, females. And we'll call this guy Perrin, Perrin, and we'll call this halfling Perrin, Perrin the Criminal. And that is number 8. Every adventurer or every hero needs a good name. And then the last step, number 9, is to choose your goals and character ties. Your goals and character ties are this. Does your character have any short-term goals? Does your character have any long-term goals? Does your character have any ties to any specific trinkets or items that they have on them that go with your background story? Does your character have any kind of ties to any organizations, maybe a thieves guild, maybe a certain pirate ship, maybe ties to party members that they have now. Maybe they have some kind of information about one of the other party members that they don't know about. So Goals and ties are pretty much the last thing that you want to do while creating a character, and I'm going to leave this up to you to determine for your character. Now, this is pretty much the end of the tutorial. I'd like to thank you guys for hanging out for this 45 minutes, watching me have fun, create a character. I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope I didn't make any mistakes, which I don't think I did, but I've been known to. So hey, what the hell. Now, you're going to be able to take and download this character sheet off of my website at tabletopping.net. And there is going to be a rogue for Perrin for level 1 through 20. So if you want to try Perrin at level 10 in a game, just go to my site, download him, and play. So I'm going to do all the work for you. You just download the characters you need, take them to your game, and have fun. I'm going to have lots of variations of mages, lots of variations of rogues, lots of variations of warriors over time. So keep checking back on the website, and if you want to help create a character level 1 to 20, feel free to shoot me a message. Leave a message down in the comments section. I'd love to post your character sheets on my website. So anyways, everyone, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And until next time, good gaming, and I'll see you later.